everyone. I am extremely excited to bring you on this journey. So you've had a time travel just a few minutes ago, so now allow me to bring you on a space travel. So before we go anywhere, by the way, I wanted to start with something that probably you've heard multiple times. We are made of star stuff. It's something that's been used and abused, but what that really means. So I really want to start at the very beginning. So what you're seeing at the back is called Tarantula Nebula. Nebulas are pretty much where the stars are born. They are the cradle, they are the cosmic womb, where they are the birthplace of stars. And as a byproduct, from stars, we have galaxies, and then we have planets, and then we have moons, and then we have everything that is pretty much in our solar system. And so we have life. Now, just focus on the shape where all these gases bringing atoms together so that they ignite. That shape is very similar to something where we're all coming from. That's us. This is where we were coming from. It's a spiral. That spiral is a mathematical pattern, but it's pretty much our blueprint. This baby curled up in a mother's womb, like all of us who came to life, is exactly the same pattern, is the same mathematical shape as where the stars were born. It's where the galaxies were born. And so I want to start these conversations or this talk by saying that this is our origin story. The space story doesn't start from technology, it doesn't start from data, it doesn't start from power or economics. It starts from remembering that we are not disjointed from the universe. We are made of the same shape, on the same pattern, the same syntax of the stars. And so we have to remember that the universe or space is not out there, it's our home, it's us. So, speaking of birth, speaking of mother's womb or a star's womb, I want to take a minute to talk about this very significant line that we can all see from pictures above Earth. That's called the Kármán line. Technically, the Kármán line represents the actual boundary between Earth and the outer space. It's roughly 100 kilometers above sea level. And that's pretty much where the breathable atmosphere ends and where the outer space begins. That's the boundary between the classic aerodynamics, where we know how we can fly. Well, we don't really, but the birds do and the aviation does. And where orbital mechanics starts. But that's also, for me, represents the cosmic cervix. It's pretty much the place and the boundary where we're leaving behind something that's very organic to us. It's soft, it's terrestrial, it's water-bound. And we go into something that's dark, it's harsh, and it's extremely unknown. That's pretty much where Earth lets go, and where we also let go of everything that we knew was possible, or that we knew was normal for all of us. And this is what it feels to be born. Any time that one of us is born, there is a woman screaming and there is a baby crying. So we tend to romanticize birth, and philosophically, and it's definitely a romantic way of thinking there is a new life coming. But birth, it's nothing short of brutal. It's brutal for a mother. How many mothers are here? They all know. And it's a shock to the system for the baby. The reason why the baby screams and cries when it comes out of the womb is that it's left behind what was known, what was comfortable, what was giving it life before it knew what to do into a new life. So pretty much like us, I personally cry pretty much on a daily basis. And that's because we are injected into something that's completely unknown, where we are on our own, and we either adapt or we die. And so there is this image, which is one of my favorite ones. It's a lineage of legacy, where we are starting as primates, and then we are developing into humans, And then we are developing further. We are developing into humans wearing an astronaut suit, reaching for the moon, literally reaching out. And this has been inherently a human trait, the will to reach out, the will to desire. And generally, anytime when we think about space or we think about the stars or we even look at the full moon, all of us, we think about that desire to look up, that desire to get beyond what's known to us, which is very sacred and it's quite mystical. It has nothing to do, again, with the technology. But that's where technology is bringing us. It's the extension of a legacy that started when the first tools were invented and it moved into satellites, from fire to fusion. So space and space technology are pretty much continuing that legacy of humanity that dares to dream on a daily basis and literally wants to get somewhere that hasn't been discovered before. We are here today, and we are here on this stage with all these amazing lights because someone, somewhere before us, dared to do something that wasn't supposed to be done, or it was risky, or it was uncomfortable. And that's what we do with space. So this is one of the first spacewalks that has ever been done in history. And we are talking about June 1965. It was a long time ago. And this was the first American astronaut who made what is called a spacewalk. In our own jargon, is an extravehicular activity. This man was literally tethered through a tether that was 25 feet long, through a tin can that was smaller than our bathroom and was orbiting Earth every 90 minutes and managed to even take a picture. That wire was made out of aluminum, of golden film, of Dacron, of nylon. But that wire reminds us of the umbilical cord. If you think about it, that man was reaching out into something that was unknown, but still connected for his breathing, for his oxygen, to that tin can that was giving him safety, and also was giving him connection to Houston, which was his place of birth. So I have to say that anytime I talk about space, or when people ask me, what do you do, why space, I am met with a full range of emotions. First of all, it starts with skepticism. Because anytime I say I'm a rocket scientist and I have a space company, people look at me and they go, yeah, that's a very nice pickup line. And then, secondly, I really see discontent, some sort of resistance, some sort of frustration. And I understand where that frustration is coming from, because I felt it my entire life. Although I've been in the space industry for 15 years, I worked on NASA Martian missions, next generation telecommunication spacecraft with big corporations, and now I have my own company and I have my own satellites into space. I myself felt like at the very beginning that I didn't belong. I felt that the industry wasn't really ready for somebody like me. Someone who didn't look like a poster child of a rocket scientist. This Italian woman coming from a very small town, has no parents that went to school whatsoever, doesn't know anything about the industry, but she just wants to work in it. And obviously she doesn't look like anybody in the industry. So what is she supposed to do here? But anytime I was in a boardroom, I was on a shop floor, or I was, again, in a lab, I was pretty much the only one looking like me. And yet, despite this disconnection, I always felt like I belonged there. And at the same time, I felt like everyone that looked like me or didn't look like the others belonged there. And so when I decided to remove myself from the big agencies and the big corporations, and I had the obvious and insane decision to start my own space company, it started out for two main reasons. The first one is very personal, and is I fully believe, as I was introduced, that space is for everyone. And that's just not a marketing fluff. Space is for everyone because we are space. We belong there, and that's our own, that's our birthright. But then I feel the disconnect that if you think that your future and the technology that's going to shape your future and your world is designed by just a small amount of the humanity, like 0.1% of humanity, then we're bullshitting everyone. We're basically saying you have to trust that what we're doing and what we're designing is going to benefit you in the next, I don't know, centuries to come. And we're going to live in space and we're going to thrive. And our next generations are going to be the happiest ever while living on Mars. And then it's just a few of them that you've never met that make decision for yourself. And so saying that space is for everyone, for me, is literally a very simple engineering requirement. If you're building a house that needs to host different people, you need to build it with all those difference and all those requirements in mind. So if you're building space technology, that's pretty much where we're relying on a daily basis for broadband, for Wi-Fi. Even posting on TikTok and Instagram requires space technology. Emergency responders, Earth observation. These are all massive technologies that are pretty much deciding where we go. And if we don't have everyone in the room building them and designing for them, then we're saying, well, this knowledge is just staying in the golden vaults of the big corporations and the Western agencies. And what we're saying is just really not true. So that was my very first personal reason to start Space Thoughts, that I wanted every misfit. What misfit is at this point, I don't even know anymore. But everyone who felt judged, everyone that was brilliant but not recognized by the usual standards of a system that wasn't designed for them, was safe to create, to design, to have an opinion, to make decisions that were important for themselves and for everyone in their future. So I needed to build a different system. And the second reason, which is mainly technological and goes back to this is a love story for humanity, it's not just something that's powered by ego, is literally what we do at Space Thoughts. So we provide space environmental intelligence. Now, they may sound like the usual technical jargon, but pretty much what we do, we send our own satellites into space to harvest real-time data about the harsh environments that's in orbit, and that changes on every orbit where you go. And so that's pretty much the reason of giving access to everyone of knowledge and sharing knowledge of what is exactly happening out there and how it's impacting our life on Earth, how it's impacting our national infrastructure, how it's impacting our own safety, how it's impacting even the warfare. And in those places where we feel pretty powerless, we have to rely on that. And that's real access. That's in the spirit of shared knowledge. And then we go here. Probably you've seen this on many headlines. This is one of the many explosions of a SpaceX Starship. And I get it. From an engineering perspective, I completely understand that you need to try, you need to fail, you need to learn, you need to repeat. There is a lot of courage and brilliance in doing and bringing to life such complex systems. But at the same time, if we keep looking at one way of building, at one way of being ambitious, at one way of being a billionaire, we keep repeating the same mistake of keeping people out of the conversation. And so this is really my question. It was a question for myself, and it's a question for everyone here. We hear about colonizing Mars or terraforming or colonizing something else. But can we think about decolonizing our minds? Can we think about stopping the extraction and the supremacism to move from Earth and the damages they created here, to move somewhere else where nobody really wanted to claim real estate? Can we just bring there something that is co-creation, that is collaboration, that is interdependence? And because I'm an optimist, so this is what I love most about the concepts of space. This is an artist's rendition of what's the concept called O'Neill cylinders. So there was Garrett O'Neill, who was a scientist in the 70s, who thought about why do we want to live on a dead rock if we can actually build sustainable ecosystems that are orbiting around Earth? Can we actually bring what we have, what makes us humans, into space, having centrifuge and having water and plants? And this is something that's also recognized across movie and advertisement and everything as a subculture called solar punk, where we want to build our future based on clean tech, again, co-creation and communal living. This is not just for survival, but it's actually for thriving beyond what we knew was possible. And so going back to that pattern that I shown before when we were coming from the stars and going into our mother's womb, this is called a time-nature spiral. This is actually the golden ratio. That's the mathematical pattern that's pretty much everywhere. It's in the womb, it's in the curved baby, it's in the galaxies, it's in our Milky Way, it's in a curve of an ocean wave, it's in sunflower seeds, it's in our own DNA. And this is the time scale of our evolution, from atoms to the solar systems, from fire to fusion, from the cosmos to individuals, from singularity to soul. And this is another one that I love very much as an emblematic symbol of what it means to live as a spiral and not as a linear path. This is the Ouroboros. I love so much this whole thing that I have a dragon on my left arm and this Ouroboros as a snake on my right arm. The Ouroboros is pretty much a snake or a dragon that's eating its own tail. And it's the symbol of perpetual rebirth, the end at the beginning, the understanding that we are not permanent, but we can change. And it takes will to evolve. It really does. Because I don't think any snake will want to eat its own tail. But it's a requirement. It needs to be done so that you can shed the old skin. You can devour everything that doesn't serve you anymore. The old beliefs, what you thought again was true, the comfort zone, the limiting beliefs of your mindset, or even the judgment or the bias that we all have about technology and where it's going. And especially when it comes to us, engineers and scientists, we have to kind of stop, being the people that talk weird and want to make stuff happen without being relatable. That's also something that we have to remove as a limiting belief. And that's where we're going as a collective. As a collective nowadays, we're really living something where we're brought to the brutal birth of a new civilization. We're screaming, we're feeling it, we're crying. There is a collective cry for everything that's happening in the world. That's individual, and again, that's on a global scale. And this is what's happening. We are evolving, and we need to be willing to go beyond those boundaries that people or systems have actually built for us. And so coming to these very recent days, this is, again, another umbilical cord. This is a couple of years ago. There was another astronaut doing another spacewalk. But in this case, again, it wasn't just connected to a tin can. It was the International Space Station, which is one of the most amazing examples of how humanity came together for the sake of physics, for the sake of research, for the sake of wanting to know something together. And again, that umbilical cord, as you see, connecting a human between its past and the potential of the future is still there. And it's been shaped again through the will of evolving the technology, of evolving the safety. And so in this very moment where I'm over time and my heart is beating a lot because I wasn't supposed to be over time, that's what I felt when I was writing, when I was presenting these slides. It's the heartbeat, the space heartbeat, because that's everywhere. We're starting from 10 billion years ago, that mesh of dust and whatever else there. That's basically our own galaxies folding together. We're then moving to the Milky Way. That's our home. We are a speck of dust in the big swirl of a galaxy that is here. And then that moves, if you zoom in, into an ultrasound. That's where the baby is, and that's where the shape is the same. And then if you think about that baby came out of the mother's womb, and then it became human. And that human, those humans, those women, are now looking back at Earth, not to escape it, but to understand it better, to revere it as something that we take for granted on a daily basis. That's the full circle of life. 10 billion years ago, nowadays, we're looking at our own home, coming from the same place where we are actually having this amazing experience. And so this is where I want to end. I want to come back here And I want to say that what we're leaving as an evolution through the space technology and these all changes that are affecting us on a collective scale, this is where we belong. This is not out of fear, this is not out of conquest, this is not out of colonizing another place, doesn't need to be colonized. This is our birthright. Our choice has always been a choice to evolve and to rise with the will to evolve at escape velocity, like the first satellite that left the orbit of our Earth and is still out there and is still functioning. Thank you very much.